I've been humbled to be on the stage with many of these artists. They all are constant learners. They're still looking for new information and ideas. Within 1 month, give me 4 weeks, I can promise you, from the beginning of that month to the end of that month, you are going to be a much better drummer, and you are going to feel the results of that growth.
Well done, buddy. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dom Famularo.
Oh, man.
Thank you so much for coming back to Drumeo. This is his second visit here. First time you came out, everyone just loved it so much. We had to get you out as soon as possible. It's actually been less than a year.
It's been amazing to return.
Yeah.
I'm back.
You're back. And I love it. Let's start with the 4 ways of learning. You have a really cool graphic. This is called the 4 ways of learning, I believe, the hierarchy of learning.
Absolutely. And Dave, this is important because this is, before we even begin the process as a student, we have to understand what our learning path will be.
Right.
And these 4 stages, it begins with unconscious incompetence. What that means is you first approach the, and we'll use drumming as an example. I approach the instrument. I know nothing about drums. I grab the sticks, I start playing, and I start bashing, and I'm having fun, but I don't know what I'm doing, and it's just kind of noise. It's not organized noise, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to organize these sounds. So in playing it, they're just kind of hitting it. So it's unconscious incompetence. What that means is they have no idea that they stink.
Okay, yeah, fair.
I'm not aware that I'm bad, okay?
Right.
So at that point, then, that student then hears someone else play, and they start to see, you know, the groove is happening, and they start to see a fill happening, and they're crashing, and all of a sudden they say, wow. Now that becomes conscious incompetence, where now I become aware of the fact that I stink.
Bad, that I stink. Right.
So now I know I'm not that good.
I would think about a lot of students are in that spot.
Well, what happens is they really realize that now that I understand that I have a lot to learn, so that's stage 2. And that then brings us to stage 3, which is conscious competence. And what that means now is, now I'm aware and I'm working on what I need to work on to make me a better player.
Right.
So these stages are very important, and that conscious competence is where all great players, even today, the best of the best, always go back to that stage 3. because they want to keep on pushing themselves to try and learn new things. So that third stage is that conscious competence. We then work to the fourth and final stage, which is unconscious competence.
Right.
And that's where you've worked on these techniques so well. You've got them so well. The techniques, how you're playing, your groove, your pocket, everything is so well. You're not even thinking about how you're playing.
Right, yeah.
And that's always the stage we want to get to. And many of these great masters are there. But all these great masters, at that stage of unconscious competence, they always then step out of that and go back to conscious competence to say, what more can I learn?
How can I get better?
So that circle between stages 3 and 4, that's really where the journey is.
So tip number 1 is just understand that, I guess. Understand what kind of steps that you're going to be going through. Maybe try to figure out where you're at in that journey, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
So number 2, this is a good tip. This is knowing the questions that are asked to each student. Now, this is something you do with all your students.
Every student, I take them on this journey. And listen, think of how great this is. We're here, Dave, in the middle of nowhere where we are right now, right?
Yeah.
We have this ability to reach this audience, all of you out there. This information is absolutely delivered to you so you can become better at what you do. This, for sure, Dave, is not about me. I've got enough challenges in my own life to worry about Dom Famularo. This is about the student. So these questions that I ask when a student comes in, I may ask him, the first one I might say, name me 5 of your favorite drummers.
Yeah.
Alive or dead, who are the 5 drummers that you listen to that really inspire you? Now, someone might say, well, I like, Tommy Lee, I like Chad Smith, I like Tommy Aldridge, and they might be like heavy rockers. Once they give me that, I kind of know where they're at, of what influences them. Someone might come in and say, gee, I like Philly Joe Jones, Max Roach, Mel Lewis, and real, Roy Haynes, real jazz guys.
Yeah.
Now I know where they're at.
Yeah.
Where they've got, so everyone's got a little different path that inspires them. And if those 5 drummers inspire you, no matter who they are, Bonzo, John Bonham, all these drummers, Porcaro, that's going to be the culmination of what you enjoy listening. That's kind of the direction of where you want to go. And that would be the beginning of the plan of how to get you there.
What are some other questions that you would ask them?
Then I'll ask them, for example, I'll say, is anybody in your family musical? Now, this is an important question because they might say, well, yeah, my mom's a piano teacher, my dad played guitar, my older brother played bassoon, and I wanted to play drums. Well, now you have a family that has music in their household that really kind of attracts, positive art in the musical sounds in their family. They're listening to songs, they may have classical music on, they may have jazz, rock. So that's important. So when I ask that question and they say, no, my parents, they don't like music. They're both, science teachers, and my brothers are, into, sports. And that's it. So now I know that they're the only ones. So they're looking for their identity in maybe a family that does not promote music in the household.
Right.
So I've got to be aware of kind of how their household works to know how I can deliver them the information that they want.
How many lessons have you taken before? That's a question you asked?
That's an important one. How many lessons? Have you taken lessons before? If the answer is yes, how many lessons have you taken before?
Yeah.
And who was your teacher? There's a good chance, because of the years I've been doing this, that I might know who that teacher is, no matter where in the world they are. And if you've studied with that person for a year, I kind of know what that person probably gave you. So that's very, very helpful to understand. So,
or what books you've gone through too.
Well, the next thing is, what books have you gone through? Sometimes someone says to me, well, I went through Stick Control. And I say, fantastic. Did you finish the book Stick Control? And they'll say, no, I just do the first 3 pages, 5, 6, and 7. And I'll say, well, that's like, reading the first chapter of the book War and Peace and thinking you know how it ends. It ain't going to happen that way. You got to really kind of read the book to feel how it was written. So with Stick Control and George Lawrence Stone, when he wrote the book, it's a calisthenic book to develop your muscles and exercises in mind and patterns. So when you get to page, the last page, page 46, you really have a higher level of skill and you have better stick control.
What about one of the questions you told me was name the last 2 to 3 live shows? How is that an important
Well, listen,
question?
If a student comes to me and says, man, I went to the Chili Peppers and saw Chad Smith play. It was unbelievable. They fired. I'm a huge Chili fan. I even have their logo, on my arm because I love the Chili Peppers. My son Dominic has the Chili Peppers logo on his arm because he loves the Chili Peppers.
You're kidding.
Absolutely. So that says to me, I can tell by that inspiration that they're going to know who that band is, and they're going to be inspired by it. So that allows me to see that if they've gone to hear live music, it might even be it might have been a hotel where there was a lounge band.
Yeah.
It might have been a wedding you went to when you heard a live band. So I just want to kind of hear what they've been exposed to musically, to hear what they like and what they're aware of, to see where I can bring that student to that level.
And you also ask them to play for you, show them what.
Yeah, this is really important. This gets to the point where finally I say, okay, sit down and play for me. And I always tell them, this is not a test. I'm not here to judge your playing. I want you to play, just your favorite groove and your fill, and I want to see your fun on the kit. And I don't care if it's the corniest groove or the simple, or if you just want to play a little solo, anything, so I can then see where they're at. So the student should go to a teacher and make sure that the teacher hears them play. If a teacher does not hear you play, and they're going to start teaching you, well, I have a challenge with that. I have to get to know. I even ask students, if you have anything on YouTube, if there's any clips I can have, forward me the links to that performances. So, you should, if you have a teacher, send links to that teacher ahead of time so they're aware of what you're about. So when they come into that lesson, that teacher's more aware. So as a student, we have to have that responsibility to take charge of our lessons.
Tip number 3, what are your goals and what do you want to achieve? So isolating the goals, I guess.
This is important because, if you want to play the drums, and listen, I'm still having fun doing this. Yeah. I'm still having fun doing this after 53 years of playing. This is still exciting, and I'm still learning. So I have to know, what am I trying to achieve? If someone says to me, listen, I want to just jam with some of my friends in the garage. We get together on Friday night. We just jam to a couple tunes and we have fun. I just want to be able to jam and have fun. That's one set of criteria that I would use in how to teach them. If the student says, well, gee, I want to play, I'm in a 1980s cover band.
Yeah.
And I want to learn it. Okay, it's a whole different mentality. If someone says, I got a jazz trio, and we want to start working on some more intense tunes out of the real book, okay, it's a whole nother level. So I have to kind of know, and to qualify the student, what they want out of their drumming. If it's I just want to be able to play a good groove and play some fills, that's great too. But there has to be a plan on what you want to achieve. Now, if you say, I want to be like Chad Smith, I want to be like Marco Minimum.
Yeah. What do you do then?
Now you set that standard. If that standard is there, and that's great.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to be there, we have to then follow the path of the learning skills that those drummers achieved. So, for example, and both of them understand jazz. When someone says to me, I want to learn John Bonham, I want to study John Bonham, I say, fantastic. We're going to listen to Buddy Rich and Joe Morello. And they say, no, Dom, you don't understand. I don't want to learn jazz guys. I want to learn Bonham. I want to learn John Zeppelin, man. I want to rock out. Yeah. I'll say, oh, great. We're going to listen to Buddy Rich and Joe Morello. And they'll say, listen, Dom, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. I want to learn John Bonham. I don't want to learn this jazz stuff. Maybe you're getting too old. You don't understand what I'm saying. So then I say, boy, you're right. Maybe I am getting too old. Say it again slower. And they say, I want to learn the style of John Bonham. I said, okay, let me see if I get this right. You want to learn the style of John Bonham with Led Zeppelin and understand his playing. They go, yeah. I said, okay, now I get it. I'm sorry. I am getting old. I said, I'm terribly sorry. We're going to listen to Buddy Rich and Joe Morello.
Yeah.
Only because Bonham was a great jazz drummer.
Yeah.
So the only way to understand Bonham's sound is when you listen to Morello and how Morello played time and how Morello played with his hands, how Buddy Rich played certain patterns that Bonham played. When Bonham plays his double single pedal foot, where he plays those patterns inside of a groove, that's Buddy. Buddy played triplets that way. So Bonham pulled that out, put that into his playing, so when you understand that, we go to a whole different place now of greatness in studying what these plays did.
Tip number 4, this is a good one. You said, I want you to expand on this. Understand what being a constant learner means. Why is that important for a student? And why is it that good students understand this?
Yeah, this is really important for all of you to really kind of take into perspective, because all of the great drummers that I have had the pleasure of meeting and performing with, some of the greats of the great, I've been humbled to be on the stage with many of these artists, they all are constant learners, which means no matter how great they are, they're still looking for new information and ideas. And why that's an important ingredient is because if you're constantly playing the same old stuff all the time, that's going to get stale really fast. That's going to get to a point where you start to say, you know, I'm just playing the same stuff. I play the same fill over and over. I want to get out of that rut. What that means is you've got to go back and change and accept some challenges in learning different things. Now, what I love about the word challenge is that inside the word challenge, the first 3 letters and the last 3 letters of challenge is change. So that means once I accept a new challenge, I have to accept change. And as a student, you have to be able to embrace change. This is such an important quality of being a good student. And change means I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and learn something that I didn't learn, because that might just unlock an idea that might come out in my playing that I didn't know existed, that all of a sudden I discovered.
Right.
And when you have that aha moment where you discover, wow, where did that come from? Whoa! There's an excitement in that if we keep on finding those aha moments, those moments of creativity, and you keep building on those, that's really where our student quality of growing and learning really increases.
That makes a lot of sense. I like that. First 3 letters, last 3 letters, and challenge and change. That's a good one. You're full of great quotes, Don.
I find this stuff. That's what ages. Hey, I didn't get this grade for nothing.
No.
I earned this.
You earned that grade. Here's another good one. This is tip number 5, is understand what music means to you as a student. And I love this. Is it an art or is it a sport? And you said both are correct.
Both are correct. Listen, playing drums, if you look at this as a sport and you just want to develop speed and fast double bass chops and you want to play fast stuff all the time to impress people or bring yourself joy and happiness, that's great.
Yeah.
If that's what your love is, fantastic. I judge nobody when it comes to a student coming in. Whatever they want to learn, my job is to help you get there.
Yeah.
So the sport part of it is, you know, a lot of drummers are into this physical, you know, they work out, they play the drums. It's more sport than it is art. And that's fine. If it's an art about expression where you're not concerned about the speed or the double bass challenge, you just want to take the blend of all these symbols and sounds and create some kind of a texture, you know, kind of like what I did in One for Jeff and when I play. I'm looking for textures in there. So with that, every time I play that song, I play it a little differently because I discover different textures within that.
Right.
So the art part of it, art is about expression, and that's a really important part in what music is about. It's about expression. It's the depth of expression that brings this to a place of just, you know, euphoric joy. When you can feel something, you express that feeling, and then somebody else feels that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is so deep. It's so deep. So again, art and sport. Now, could you do both? Absolutely. There are many great drummers out there that do both very well. And that takes a real high level of discipline, and that's the key word that has to step into this whole picture.
Well, let's get into the last 3 tips here. These ones are the ones that I love the most. These are the ones that I think are going to directly help students watching this right here. This one is how to find a teacher that can deliver what you want. And we have a really cool image to show, a graphic to show. This is your lineage of drum teachers, I guess you can call it.
Absolutely. In the research of trying to find out what, you know, when you kind of understand what you want to learn. So in this here, I kept on hearing the names of these 3 great drummers: Billy Gladstone, George Lawrence Stone, and Sanford Moeller.
Yes.
And in the East Coast, where I live in the New York area on Long Island, those names came out, and they were really very important names of techniques that they taught. Gladstone had finger technique, Stone had the wrist and this rebound free stroke technique, and Moeller, of course, with this whipping motion. And Moeller's motion wasn't necessarily a method, it was just a movement.
Right.
Just like the finger technique was a movement.
Right.
So when I had met Max Roach, he said, you got to learn those. It was 1971, I was 18 years old. Those 3 guys died in the mid-1960s. So the information I wanted, I was not able to get from them. So as a student, to seek out the teachers, they were not available.
Right.
So the next question I asked to Max Roach was, who were their best students? So as a student, that's where I wanted to go to get the information. So I say to all students, you have to seek out. And in the world we have today, it's so easy to get this information.
Yeah.
Listen, all of the drummers you have had in this room, I am humbled and honored to be in this room again. You guys have had the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the same area where Garaboy Garibaldi sat.
I know.
Garibaldi, if there's ever a drummer who was a constant student.
Yeah, no kidding.
David is, well, he's one of my heroes. I met David in 1976. I've known him for over 40 years.
Wow.
He has always inspired me. All the times I've heard Tower of Power, all the times I've sat with him, we've done clinic tours together. And here's a guy that just wants to keep learning.
Yeah.
He's with the band. He calls it the million, mile tour or whatever. These guys are just out constantly traveling
Always
for 50
on the
years.
road, yeah.
And when you hear the band, if you go to hear David Garibaldi playing with the band Tower of Power, if you're in the audience and you are not moving somehow, if you're not tapping your foot or you're not moving or wiggling or dancing, you're dead.
Yeah, check your pulse. So
You're dead. You're over. Lay down, get the flowers. It is over, brother. That's it, right? Yeah. Garibaldi is just so, and when he plays, it's just so smart, and his groove and his funk feel, it's just so great. He's constantly learning. So the process of that lineage to me was, when I asked who were the best students, that's when Max Roach said to me, you got to go to Shelley Mann, who was the best student of Gladstone. You got to go to Joe Morello, the best student of George Lawrence Stone. Mm-hmm. Then you got to go to Jim Chapin. Mm-hmm. Well, fortunately, being in New York, that's where they were. And then eventually I studied with Morello first, then Chapin, then Shelley Mann moved to California. When he moved to California and was playing out there and doing all the TV shows and the movies and the recordings, in 1976, I put a trio together so we can go to California to play. Because I wanted to go study with Shelley Mann. Yeah. I got to get out to California. So I drove 3,000 miles across America to go, and with no job lined up with the band. We finally found a gig to play. We played out, and the musicians that were in the band, Frank Goldstein and Antonio Pedisano, these were two great players. Yeah. Frank went on to be a phenomenal arranger and player out in the Bay Area, San Francisco area, and Tony went on to play guitar and also eventually manage Frank Sinatra. Wow. The last 20 years of his life.
Crazy.
So these guys went on to great things. And what's amazing, we had this band, we get out there, and I'm studying with Shelley Mann. And he was the right guy to have at that time because he opened up my mind. So I had to seek out. So when someone says, I got to drive an hour to get to. I drove 3,000 miles. Yeah. It took me a week and a half.
What I always get is drummer mentality, or just people's mentality is, there's so much content on the internet it's all free. So drum lessons should be free. But if you're sacrificing your time by watching someone who may not be qualified or maybe just be some kid in his basement on YouTube, you don't know what you're getting. Spend a couple bucks, whoever it is, get a Skype lesson with Dom. Try out Drumeo, go and drive 3,000 miles. It's a small investment to something that you're going to be doing for the rest of your life.
And it was a different time then where you had to kind of drive out there. Nowadays, like you said, we have the access of the internet.
Yes.
We didn't have that. And how we learned years ago, again, we learned vinyl. I told you put the vinyl down, you put the needle down. When you wanted to learn something, you had to keep moving the needle to the exact same place to learn. It was we had to really fight for our knowledge.
Yeah.
The younger generation, they don't fight for their knowledge.
Yeah.
It's literally at their fingertips.
Yeah.
So now you have more knowledge that can come to you. Technically, you should be able to move the art form even further. People want things to happen too easy. And the bottom line is all of this here is you gotta put the work into it. Mm-hmm. Listen, Garibaldi still practices tremendously. He puts time in, he studies the instrument. Vinny Colaiuta is still studying the instrument. Gad Weckel is an avid student. Steve Smith is out there studying this craft. Every time I hear him play, he moves up a few notches of greatness. It's incredible. Yeah. Simon Phillips still learning. Cobham will be 75 this year. He's still a student of the art form. Yeah. How much more inspiring? Roy Haynes is 94 and still cranking away. And when I see him, he'll say, Dom, what do you got that's new? What can I learn?
No kidding.
And it's like, Roy, it's like, so to me, that's like in itself is inspiring.
Yeah.
So that process of putting the hard work in, you got to be able to put the hard work into it. So things will come easier technology-wise, but it all comes down to on that practice pad or on that drum set, you got to put the time into it and really kind of work hard to develop those skills.
How do you set a practice schedule? Tip number 7. How do you set a practice schedule that will deliver the results for all that stuff?
This is great. Now, what happens in a practice schedule, what I have to ask a student is I've got to say, okay, now you want to learn what kind of a practice schedule can you set up for the week?
Yeah.
So if you say, gee, I only have 30 minutes on Monday, Tuesday I can probably get an hour in, Wednesday I'm busy all day, I have no time to practice, I get home late. Thursday I can probably put an hour and a half in, and Friday, good. So we have to sit down and map out what time can we steal for that time. Now when we have the schedule of the times that you have, now we got to say, okay, now let's figure out in Monday in those 30 minutes, what are we going to practice that in those 30 minutes can push your agenda forward. Well, maybe in those 30 minutes, it might just be the book Stick Control, where we do each number for 1 minute. So it's a 24-minute exercise. It might be just that, 24 minutes exactly of doing stick control, stretching your hands and developing the free stroke or whatever you're going to work on to get your technique to a looser place. And then the last like 5 or 6 minutes, hop on the drum set and play. That's your time. Go to bed.
Don't overthink it, hey?
Don't overthink it.
Because students, this is the biggest thing. I don't know what to practice. There's so much information thrown at them all the time. YouTube videos, Instagram people they follow, Facebook has videos, Drumeo has thousands of lessons. There's hundreds of books, hundreds of DVDs. What do people do? That's the biggest question that we get from our students.
Yeah.
How do you respond to something like that?
I say let's set the schedule. So with that now, let's find out what you want to do. So on Monday we do stick control for those 30 minutes. We have that. Then Tuesday you have an hour. So now let's work on rock grooves, and there might be a book you're working on, maybe a book like Future Sounds, where you're going to play some of the. So for an hour you'll work on that book. Maybe what you'll do is you'll work on it for maybe 30 minutes, and then the other 30 minutes put on some play-along tracks and just play. Wednesday you can't practice because you're busy all day.
Yeah.
Thursday comes in, you got an hour and a half. Now Thursday, we're going to kind of make up. Maybe we'll do stick control in the beginning to warm your hands up. Maybe we'll do some other exercises. Then we'll work on some drum soloing, and then we'll get back to some play-along tracks. So we'll squeeze that hour and a half. So listen, in the workings of now what we have with our phones, where you can put your calendar in there. Put your schedule in your calendar and literally map out what you want to. I promise you, as I teach with my students, if you put a schedule together for 1 month like this and map out what you want to do, keeping it fun-based, but we're going to map out a plan. I'm going to watch some of the Bruce Becker's lessons here. I'm going to go down some of the Garibaldi stuff. All this stuff here too. Within 1 month, give me 4 weeks. I can promise you, from the beginning of that month to the end of that month, you are going to be a much better drummer, and you are going to feel the results of that growth. That's going to be inspiring right there.
At what level of discipline are you willing to commit yourself? How is this something that we can apply to students?
Well, this really is a great question. Discipline means self-control. With my 3 boys, I would tell them, I said, guys, listen, I want you to act with good behavior or clean your rooms. So you have to discipline yourself to clean that room. If you don't clean the room, then I'm going to have to discipline you. You don't want to go there.
Nope.
All right? You don't want to go there. So discipline has to come from within, self-control. So that's the first to understand that. That means you have to put this schedule together and you have to follow the practice plan to make it work. If you can play your instrument and play with the band and inspire someone listening to your music, or just play a solo or play along to a play-along track to your parents, and your parents find joy in you playing that music, that's the power of, you did it. You did it. You brought joy to your parents, to your family. You brought joy to your friends. You brought joy to your schoolmates in your school play. Play. The feedback you're going to get from playing and your concentration and your discipline is going to come back tenfold.
Yeah.
So when that passion starts to come to you, it's only going to cycle into, I want to improve my level of discipline.
Yep.
I want to now focus even more. With all of this here, it's a matter of create the energy that is behind your passion.
Yeah.
And gosh, the magic begins at such a high level. Such a high level.
I love it. The quotes that you say, you emanate inspiration, man. I just can't help but just get pumped when I watch you talk. And I know we went long on this lesson, and I apologize for all who's like, oh man, really an hour? But how do you stop this? This is such great information, and from the horse's mouth itself.
It's kind of funny. I've got an incredible supporting family that inspires me greatly.
Yeah.
And this team around me, my 3 boys are just great kids. Dominic, my oldest, and Jonathan and Maxwell, my youngest. These are 3 boys that are doing what they love doing. They're living their passion. And that was the key thing when I said it. I said, listen, no matter what you go to school for, whatever you got to live your passion. Whatever your passion. I don't care if you tell me you're into knitting. If you're into knitting, we're going to find the best knitting school and find a way of how you can make a living knitting.
Right.
If that's your thing. And my oldest son is into writing and TV production. My middle son is a lighting technician. He's working for CNBC. My youngest son, Maxwell, is going into the academy for NYPD. He loves that entire criminal, forensic accounting mentality of going after following the money, so to speak. And within that, they're living their passion. That's inspired from the depth of my wife, who is just an absolute saint of a person because she gets the whole bigger picture of the family and the kids and what I'm doing with what's happening with my traveling around the world. And she's incredibly supportive of it. Because of that support and that love, having a partner like that and the depth of someone that is willing to support this passion, this is a pretty serious. So to me, I feel like the obligation of my discipline has to come in showing them the love that I have for them, that I want to keep pushing myself, so hopefully maybe I can make even their lives better.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. That's unreal. Do you have anything to add? We're getting close to the wire here, I guess you could say. Is there anything else you want to add to this? Tips for students. How do you become a better student? There's 8 tips that you just said, a ton of other things, but anything else to add?
Absolutely. You know, and I'm going to speak to the cameras here. You know, this is, as you hear my voice, I'm 65 now, and as I travel the world at an intense pace, I just was in Ohio with Thomas Lang in Ohio. I was just in Nottingham, England, and then I went to Ghent, Belgium. I'm only home for a week after this here, and I go to Italy for 5 days to perform. So I'm still traveling at this pace. There is an incredible world out there of potential, of greatness out there, and music is the power that can bring us to it. Understanding music and developing a higher musical sense, when you work towards improving yourself at anything, it is incredible what you can do and take your life to a place that you might not realize where it is right now. So if you think about a 2, 5, and a 10-year plan, where do I want to be with my instrument in 2 years? Do I want to be playing in a band? Do I want to maybe even start doing some teaching? You know, you might want to think that, well, you're at a stage where maybe I wouldn't mind taking on a couple of students right now. Even though I'm still a student, I was a student at 17, beginning to teach. And I taught younger kids. So I at least was able to give them some guidance, even though I was still learning.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. This is one of the only industries that you can do that at.
I think so,
You know, that you can still be a student of the art form while you're teaching, as long as you're passing that information and knowledge. And there really is a magical result that comes out of music and the power of music. Again, when I played the song, You've Come Back, when I think about even players like, you know, Joe Morello, the great Joe Morello, on his deathbed, he still was willing to learn. You know, the Jim Chapin practicing the day before he passed away on a practice pad, and his hands sounded fantastic. Yeah. When I went to visit him, and his hands just sounded great. He was still learning and pushing himself, and I had flew home that night from Florida, and the next morning I got the call that Jim passed away. It was unbelievable to see the memory of these stories of these great people that have come before us. Sometimes when you want to get that inspiration to boost you, go back and learn a little bit more about some of these guys that came before us. It really is amazing to hear their story and what they've done and what you can draw from that to push yourself to that next level. And that really is where the journey begins.